Hey everybody, welcome to Downballot Roundup in partnership with Leave No Dem Behind, where I introduce you to Democratic candidates running in local elections throughout the country. I'm Bryan Randolph, and today I'm here with Kehala Two Bulls, who is running for the South Dakota Senate to represent the 34th District. Hello, Kehala. How are you today? It's very nice to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm great.
Excellent, excellent. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, as you said, I'm running for state senate in District 34. In my regular life, I'm a nonprofit administrator. I have a master's in counseling therapy, and currently, for the last 8 years, I've run an agency called Seventh Circuit CASA, and we provide court advocacy for children in foster care due to
Mhm.
abuse and neglect.
That is awesome, awesome. All right. Can you tell me a little bit about District 34?
Yeah, so District 34 represents almost half of the city of Rapid City, where I live. We are in western South Dakota on the edge of the beautiful Black Hills, and it is called a city, but really feels like a smaller community. We're a hub for the area, so we've got two Walmarts, but it's essentially my district is a lot of residential, small businesses, and some of the absolute best parks in our area.
Excellent. And when you're out there talking to people, what are you hearing? What are the issues people are talking about in your district?
One of the things that's been interesting is people are fatigued with how much controversy there is in the election
Mhm.
process. People don't like not being able to have civil conversations with their neighbors. They don't like, I think no one said this to me in the way they express it, but I think people don't like being manipulated. People here like a slower pace of life. They like good relationships. They like being able to trust people on their word and feel trusted on their word. And they know that they're kind of being used as almost clickbait in this bigger uh, theater.
Okay.
Of course, there's
And
individual issues. People are, thinking about our property taxes are going up. What's the solution for that? What does affordability look like? And there's definitely a set of us that are very concerned about the state of public education.
how is, I mean, as somebody who comes from mental health, how is the mental health situation in your area?
You know, Services aren't great. There's not enough providers. Waiting lists are long. And I think one of the issues that we're seeing is uh, really how people can access. We just have gotten, we're I think the last state in the US to get Medicaid expansion. So payment for access to mental health services as well as generalized medical services are a big issue, and there's a ballot measure in this cycle around creating work requirements for Medicaid, which isn't
As
even
far as
legally possible. It would be like a trigger law if federal
Mhm.
prohibitions got cleared.
As far as people, I've spoken with a lot of people living in red states and talking about kind of I call the culture war issues, which are sort of, the manipulation issues. Um, do you think that it's actually having any sort of we hear the big stories, but I'm wondering on the ground whether it's actually starting to get people to vote with their feet a little bit, to start to make changes and to change the way they think and the way they vote. Both of which, those are two very different questions, by the way, but I'd like to know both.
I think that I've been talking to a lot of people who are registered Republicans here who are starting to really take a cold, hard look at um, kind of what's going on and who's on the ballot. And they're not just going party line. Some people, I think, feel really exploited by their party, probably people on both sides. But in particular, I've been talking to a lot of Republicans who are saying, um, I mean, I'm GOP, I am lifelong GOP, but I'm voting Dem this year, maybe even down the ballot, but definitely in particular races because um, they don't recognize their GOP on the ballot this year. They don't recognize who is there as a candidate option for them. So that's been really interesting because I think it's really about people reconciling their identity with their actions. And people are finding a way to do that this year. I don't know what the tipping point is on that, but it does seem that people are really stepping out and looking individually because a lot of them feel um, that they don't recognize the party that their value aligns with.
Do you think you're also seeing any sort of a hearts and minds change? People starting to maybe rethink some of the values that got them there in the first place, or maybe there we got onto a slippery slope sort of thing. Are people reconsidering those sorts of things at all?
I think it's hard to say. I think that, the Midwest is known for reserve. And um, so people aren't exactly throwing out every element of where they're standing, right?
Right.
But I do think that the Midwest is also known for, and of course, there's limits to this, uh, wanting to be good neighbors. And I think that there are a lot of people who are realizing that political grandstanding has gotten them a long ways from feeling like a good neighbor or having good neighbors around them, right? And so I think that that's kind of the first step. I don't know that people feel differently about abortion access or differently about maybe government assistance than they have in the past. But I think that people are realizing that the way the issues have been approached have taken part of their core identity of who they feel like they want to be in their community and sacrifice that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I will take that. That is a step. So I'm very happy with that. As you know, as far as these issues we're discussing, is there something in particular where you and your opponent maybe differ on something?
Um, well, I think one of the things I mentioned earlier is public education. To me, when I think about investing in public education, we're talking about investing in not only the experience that each individual child and family is having, but we're talking about really who is going to be the workforce of the future, who is going to be on the street making decisions, right? We want well balanced people who've had good opportunities and kind opportunities and who've been taken care of. We want those people to be coming through our schools into our community and filling the roles that we need carers, we need nurturers in our community, right?
Mhm.
And I do think that when you see people who are invested in maybe policing the content of what's being said in school and what bathrooms people are using in school, and even going towards a voucher system and private education, there is a value difference there.
All right, so we've actually made it to my final question, which is my favorite question. It's my softball question, is what I call it. I would like to know what about your district makes it special to you?
On a personal level, I love where I live. I love the parks that we get to walk to. I love getting to have so many memories on the same path of my kids at all ages, from, kind of being miserable and pregnant in the summer walking, to, their first little times that they were able to get out and walk next to the stroller,
Mm,
to, running after them on their bikes. And I love that they still want to walk with me. We're kind of at that tipping point. They're 10 and 6, so eventually mom and dad won't be cool anymore. But for now, they still want to go to the park and play. And we have these incredibly beautiful spaces. And it's so important to me that everybody feels equally welcome and equally special in these spaces. And there's a lot that couldn't be better about living where I live. And there's some things that are really difficult and hard. There's segregation in my community. There's a history that can be really painful for people to discuss. And living in a family where my husband and my children are enrolled tribal members, I'm a non-native person. There's a lot that we have to discuss around how the current situation and current government governs the land we live on, right? And I think that there couldn't be a better place to raise my children than where their actual creation story is centered.
Excellent. All right. Kehala Two Bulls is running for the South Dakota Senate to represent District 34. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.